Corporate finance practice problem using Excel. Internal rate of return, the IRR or uneven future flows. Get ready, it's time to take your chance with corporate finance. Here is our Excel worksheet. If you have access to the worksheet and would like to follow along, note that we are in the practice tab as opposed to the example tab. The example tab in essence being an answer key. Information, left-hand side, populating that information, calculating it in the blue area on the right-hand side. Difference from this problem to prior problems is that the future returns that we expect to have are not all even in terms of the future flow. Other than that, we have the same kind of internal rate of return situation. We're going to be putting down an initial investment here. You could think about this scenario, apply this scenario to anything where you're putting down an initial investment, expecting future cash flows into the future for multiple years into the future, thereby requiring, if you really want to look at it closely, the time value of money to be considered. So that could be purchase of equipment, a project, an investment, or so on. 90,000 we're going to say we put down, then we need to estimate what we expect to get in the future so that we can present value those payments and see if it's worthwhile for the project. So we're going to say 1 year out, 30,000, 2 years out, 32,000, 3 years out, 38,000, 4 years out, the 15,000. So then we're going to do our internal rate of return. You want to think about it as being similar to the net present value or related to the net present value. A couple ways we can calculate it. One, we can use the net present value calculation and then use the goal seek to figure out the internal rate of return. Probably the more intuitive way to do it, probably the one that helps you to understand it best. Then, of course, we can do the internal rate of return formula. So we will do both of those here. Also note that the cost of capital is going to be the 10%. They might call this the required rate of return, the hurdle rate. Sometimes it's going to be referred to as that's the rate that we need a project to basically clear in order for us to accept that rate. That's the rate that we'll typically be using when we do the net present value calculation. If it comes out to be positive, then it has cleared the hurdle rate. We're getting a 10% return or over, therefore possibly acceptable. And so that'll be our starting point. So I'm going to put that 10% in our goal seek over here. That's going to be our starting point. And then we're going to adjust it so that this ending number becomes 0, finding the rate at which that happens, that being what the internal rate of return basically is. So let's say this equals the 10% for now. That's the 10%. Then we're just going to retype in our flows here. We're going to do our net present value calculation first, and then goal seek it for the IRR, the No one calls it the by the way, but I think it helps to remember. So then that's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to have, actually, let's start at 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think this is the easiest way to set this up. You might see some people setting it up as all the inflows grouped together and then all the outflows grouped together. You can do that if you want, and that could be another way to visualize it. I think the most succinct or easiest or shortest way to line it up is just year by year in this format. So then we're going to have the total down here, and the 90,000 is an outflow, which I'm going to represent as a negative number. So the initial investment, I'm going to say negative of that 90,000. Then we're just going to pick up all the inflows just as they are here, the 30, the 32, the 38, the 15. I'm just going to say equals that 30,000. I'm going to autofill all the way down and just drag that all the way down and fill in the rest of them. You can copy and paste them or whatever you would like, but it's nice to have the formulas referring over here. That's good practice so that if you have changes to your scenario, then you could set up a worksheet and run different scenarios and have a good time doing that. So we have the home tab font group. Let's underline this one, and then let's sum this up equals the SUM. Sum it up. Sum it up. That's going to be 25,000. So if we had no time value of money, we'd be saying, yeah, after 4 years, we've got a benefit of 25,000. But time value of money, like what about time value of money? Because I could put that 90,000 elsewhere and get money from other investments. Is this like, why should I put it in this investment when I could put it somewhere else possibly? Well, I want to clear the 10% rate return. If I clear 10% rate of return, then this would be worthwhile compared to other projects possibly. That's the idea. So I'm going to present value each one of these. And I'm going to present value the 90,000, even though it's still going to be 90,000 because this is at period 0. I'm going to center these. I want those in the center. Alignment and center. Way better. Way better. Okay. What was I saying? we're going to present value this, not because you need to do the present value here, but because it'll make everything uniform and then you can copy everything down. So here's what I mean. Negative present value PV shift 9 rate is going to be this 10% down here. If I was to copy it down, I would want to make it an absolute reference, but I'm not going to do that now. That's because it's something outside the table. Anything that's outside the table is typically something you would need to do an absolute reference for if you wanted to use the autofill feature to copy it down. I'm then going to take the number of periods, which is 0 this time, and then comma, comma, because it's not an annuity but present value of 1, pick up that 90,000. Don't even need to close it up. We just got that same 90,000. Let's do it again. This time we should come up with something different, which will be more interesting. Negative present value, shift 9, rate, still that 10%. I'm not going to absolute reference it, but if I wanted to copy it down, I would need to, comma. Number of periods, this is going to be 1 year out this time. Comma, comma, because it's not an annuity, but present value of 130,000 future payment. We're bringing back 1 year to 27,273. See, I told you it would be different this time. Different, smaller, because bringing it back, less money, present valued it. Let's do it one more time here. Negative present value, shift 9. We're going to say the rate, 10%, comma. Number of periods, now 2 periods out, comma. And then the payment is going to be, not the payment, because there's no payment. Future value, comma, comma, future value, 32. Bringing it back 2 years. We're now at the 26,446. Let's do one more just for the fun. Negative present value, shift 9. The rate, 10%, comma. Number of periods, 3 periods out, comma, comma. Future value, 38,000. And we bring it back. Now, obviously, even with these uneven payments, we can easily do this in Excel with just copying it down. So Excel, highly, highly useful, and I'm so happy to have it. I mean, so nice. So we're going to then delete these. Let's delete these and copy this one down. To copy it down, we need to take this 10%, make it an absolute reference. So that in F9, make it an absolute reference by selecting F4 on the keyboard, $sign before the 9 and F and 9. You only need a mixed reference, but the absolute reference works good too, and I think it's easier. I'm going to put my cursor on this one and then autofill that down, just dragging it down. Let's double click on the last one, see if it does what we expect. That's exactly what I expected. And it did it, just like I wanted, just like we were thinking it would. So now we're going to go to the Home tab, Font Group, underline it here. We auto-filled it down. Let's sum it up now. Auto down, sum up. Auto down, sum up. So then on a present value basis, we're at the 2514. Now, so that means that it's cleared the 10% because anything above 0 means it's cleared the 10%. How much has it cleared the 10%? Well, I don't know. It's if I compared it to some other project, then if this number was higher, then it would be better than the other project who had cleared the 10% and was lower. But I don't know exactly what percent return I have based on this calculation. But I want to know, well, how can I know that? Well, what if I just change this percent till that gets to 0? Meaning, like, what if I made this 11%, for example? It's getting close, and so on. So we can use autofill or the Excel to do that. We can ask Excel, would you please set this number to whatever it needs to be to make that number 0? And that'll give us our IRR, the internal rate of return. Let's try it out. We go to the goal seek to do that. We're going to go to data and then what if? What if the seek set, we want to set this cell? No, this cell. That cell needs to be 0 by changing this cell. So that cell needs to be 0 by changing this cell. This cell is going to be changed so that that cell will be 0. Let's go say okay, and it just forces it to work by trial and error. So there it is, the 11.37 makes it 0. That 11.37 is higher than the 10%, the hurdle rate, the cost of capital. Therefore, we would still accept the project based on this one thing. Let's do it again, this time using the IRR, the internal rate of return, the formula. So I'll do the same thing. I'm just going to recap this data over here because that's what you would basically need to do, right? So that I could just use kind of like a sum function for the IRR formula. You got to construct your data properly to use it properly. Proper construction for proper use. That's what needs to happen here. So let's center this. I'm going to say same kind of thing. We're just going to build our table. And I'm going to say negative flows, or outflows are negative and inflows are positive in both ways, right? Outflows aren't good and they're negative signs, and inflows are good and positive and they're positive signs. So let's drag it down. There we have it. So there's our information, just like we saw last time. The total, same thing. Summing this up, underline, font group, underline. So now same data over here, 25,000. Let's just get our IRR straight with the formula. Really easy formula. Once you have your data lined up like this, you just say equals IRR shift 9, and then you just sum it up just like the sum function. That range of data, making sure I got the outflows negative, inflows positive, and then that's it. That's the 11.37. Now, even if you do this type of calculation, really nice calculation, you get to the number quickly. You can compare different projects very easily. You might want to then verify it with a net present value calculation. However, I would highly recommend, especially when you're getting used to these, to know what they mean, to do them side by side. Present value, then the IRR, or the IRR, and then prove it by doing the net present value calculation.